to Stan the Wine Man TV. I'm your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And for the first time ever, we have a restaurant full of people watching us shoot this video with David Baverstock. I'm very privileged to have him on board. He came straight from Portugal, Esporao Murcas up in the Douro. He's the wine director up there, and I'm going to turn it over to him. And just you're from Australia, just kind of tell him how you got over to Portugal, how you got started, and then we're going to taste a few wines. Okay. And there we go.
All right. Okay, Stan. Thanks for that. Well, I'm from Australia. I'm from the Barossa Valley, which is a wine region near Adelaide, South Australia. You might know it. It's pretty famous. But when I finished learning about winemaking, I thought that the best thing would be to go to Portugal, well, to go to Europe, and do some harvests over there and learn about winemaking in France and Germany. And on the back end of that year, I had in Europe, I went to Portugal for a holiday and met my future wife-to-be. So my connection with Portugal is firstly through wine, and then there was a romantic side to it. But my wife and I, first we went back to Australia because I wanted to make wine in Australia and feel that I knew what I was doing. So we spent a couple of years in the Barossa Valley. I made wine there. She was very homesick for Lisbon, and so in 1982 I moved back with her to Portugal, and I've been making wine in Portugal for the last 33 years. Some of that time I made fortified wines, I made port wines up in the Douro Valley, but more recently, for the last 23 odd years, I've been at Esporao, which is the company that makes the wines that we're having tonight for dinner. But also, I'm also making now wines again in the Douro because Esporao bought a property and estate in the Douro. So it's going to be a really fun night. Really looking forward to talking you through the wines anyway.
All right, so you're probably glad you went to Portugal because Australian wines right now are really having a tough time on the market, and it looks like Portuguese wines are really starting to see an increase in sales.
Well, yeah, I think things go in phases. For a long time when I was in Portugal, struggling to get to where I am now, maybe things weren't going that well. I was trying to learn the language, which was pretty hard itself. But all my colleague winemakers in Australia were becoming superstars because this was during the 90s and the 2000 decade, and Australian wines at that stage were doing very well. I'd say in the last few years they've gone through a hard time because basically the sort of wines that they became good at making, Chile and Argentina and other countries started making them cheaper and better. So Australia kind of fell into the hole. In the meantime, like you say, Portugal's come up, and finally after 30 odd years, I can really say, I can speak the language, I can make a wine, I'm having a great time. So, and I came from a small town in Tanunda in the Barossa Valley. I never thought I would finish up living in Portugal. I never thought I'd finish up making wines that were being sold around the world, and I'd be here tonight in a place like this. So I'm really super lucky, and I love what I do, and I actually get paid for it as well. So it's amazing.
So we just need to move the cameraman, so we just need to move over.
I'll tell you. Telling up on this.
Of course. So just tell everyone how many wine varietals you actually play with.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things about Portuguese wines, and that I hope will come through tonight during the course of the evening, is that Portugal has something like 250 indigenous or native grape varieties. Okay, so what we think our big selling point, our positive side of our winemaking is the fact that we have something that nobody else has. So in a way, that's quite a difficult thing to get across, because you kind of have to take a leap of faith and say, I'm not going to buy. I don't need to have another Malbec, another Merlot, another Chardonnay. I'm going to try something from a country that does its own thing and does its own winemaking with its own grape variety. So you get different flavour profiles. You get you get something that's very unique, you know, and so we have to get the message across. So, you know, I travel a lot, I do a lot of wine tastings, I do a lot of wine events, I talk about the fact that we have this very unique and different situation.
So this is the one you folks are drinking right down, the Montevideo White. It is...
It's a 2014.
Okay.
So it should be young and fresh. We've got three grape varieties in there: Anton, Vaz, Ribeiro, and Burrum. So there you go. They're nothing you've ever heard of before. But you should get some lovely floral, citric aromatics on the nose. And then before we bottle the wine, we leave it for some time on its lees. That's the yeast lees after the fermentation, and that helps to fill out the palate. So you get some nice textural mouthfeel things on the palate. So it's a very cheap wine. It's a very everyday wine. You'll be surprised, I think, when you find out the price. We make it in quite big volumes, which is why we sell it in Portugal. We sell it all around the world, and we make enough of it that everybody can get to find it somewhere. So it's very well balanced. It's very fruity. Like I say, there's this kind of citric-y, floral elements to it. That's some nice richness on the palate, and all of our wines we try and give them a nice we try to give them the balance in that when they finish they have very good acidity, so that you feel like the next glass. That's the idea. And wines with acidity go well with food, so that's what you should find in the wine: freshness, fruitiness, but good acidity on the finish, so that it's a great. Yeah, at the end of the day, we want wines that are going to be good on the table, that are going to go well with food, that are going to encourage, conversation around the table.
How are you guys liking this? It's really good. I'm getting a lot of melon and honey notes out of it. I think it's really interesting. A lot of white flowers, a little bit of wet stone, which is really cool. Like this wine a lot. Great with food, as he said. By the way, Esporao has a 5-star restaurant at the winery. When I was there, my wife and I went there in September last year, and amazing food. And we had some of this with some of the seafood. Amazing. It was incredible. So this is a very good wine. I'm really liking the weight in the mouth.
Yeah, the weight in the mouth, and you're right about the white stone fruit.
Yeah.
It's definitely on the palate. We talk about 3 grape varieties, but in fact there's equally, they're the 3 main ones, but there's another 3 or 4 as well.
You have a vineyard there that does... You have a vineyard there. How many grape varieties do you plant? It's an experimental vineyard?
Yeah, we feel as a company that we have a responsibility to maintain all these grape varieties that Portugal has throughout the country. So each region in Portugal has its own speciality, its own special grape varieties. Of those 250, there's probably only 50 or 60 that are actively involved in commercial winemaking. So what we want to make sure is that we don't lose the ones that aren't being used currently in some of the commercial blends. So on our property, Esporao, we planted 188 grape varieties. So that 188, of which we're using about 30 in our commercial blends, but we have them for the future. So that as climate change becomes an important part of the future, and we have hotter weather, and some of our current varieties may not conserve the fruit and the freshness and the acidity as well in the future as they do now. Some of these other varieties that we don't know so much about could become the varieties for the future. So we have a responsibility, viticulturally speaking, to the rest of the world not to lose these varieties, because it has happened in the past. It sounds kind of bizarre and like Mission Impossible or something, but in some of the Eastern Bloc countries, when flying winemakers came in, and they went there based on what supermarkets told them would sell well in the English market, to a lot of Australian flying winemakers, they went into Eastern countries like Georgia and Moldavia and said, look, your varieties are crap. These aren't going to sell. You've got to plant Chardonnay and Cabernet, and they pulled out a lot of these varieties, and they're gone forever. It's like any species, any insect, any animal. Once it's gone forever. So in Portugal, luckily, Portugal's a great place. We've been there. It's very laid back. It's off the beaten track, and as much
just like here.
As And that's why good luck is good management. We find ourselves in a situation where we still have all these great varieties. Flying winemakers didn't come to Portugal and try and turn the place upside down. I certainly didn't. My idea about being in Portugal is to work with the local varieties and not, maybe bring in some winemaking ideas and technology, but basically work with the raw materials that we have. And so, yeah, in Portugal, luckily we have all this genetic material of grape varieties to work with for the future now.
Cool.
So
All right, so we're moving on to the Esporao Reserva 2010. I do not believe that this is in your lineup, so if you want a little taste afterwards, it'll be here. Come and see me. What's in the Esporao Reserva 2010?
Okay, so in this wine...
We sell this at King's, by the way.
This is a fabulous wine. Seriously, this is absolutely brilliant wine. This is a Trincadeira, Portuguese grape, Aragonage, which is actually Tempranillo in Spain. So Tempranillo you've probably all heard of. It's a Spanish variety, but we consider it an Iberian variety. So Spain, Portugal, Iberian Peninsula, we call it Aragonage. There's a little bit of Cabernet in it. I didn't plant Cabernet, it happened to be in our vineyards when I went to work at Esporao. And there's another variety called Alicante Couché. So there's actually 4 main varieties in there. And the wine's been aged for 12 months in barrel. Another thing that we do at Esporao with our wines when we age our red wines in barrel, we don't use too much new oak, and also the whites. If we have a wine that's going to be barrel aged, we make sure that we don't get too much new oak. It's more about the second and third year. It's like the older barrels, so that the wine has a chance to mature and evolve and achieve some kind of balance in the wood, but not to get too much oak. So you get a lot of dark berry fruits here, a lot of spice. But there's a little bit of complexity from the oak, but it's more about the wine having been through barrel and had a chance to integrate everything and be nicely balanced. And again, fantastic structure on the palate, very long, very elegant. Again, just a great food wine. So no, seriously, if you do get a chance, this is a seriously good wine.
Yeah, you have to try it. The nose by itself is incredible. Very rich, very dark fruit. This, by the way, is $12 that you're drinking now. And this is about $29, the Esporao Reserva. 27, 29, somewhere in there. Pedro, come on, help me out. No,
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Makes sense.
But it's a wine. We sell this all over the States, and a lot of the reaction is when people say, when they realise how much it costs and what the quality is, they say, why would we pay $100 for an Apple Valley when we can buy this for 30?
Absolutely.
And it really does deliver this wine.
Yeah, it has a nice fresh acidity on the finish.
Again, it's got that acid.
Yeah, the little stone fruit on the finish, but very rich up front. Incredible bottle of wine, it really is. We tried this in Portugal and I was just blown away. Had to bring it into the store because I was like, wow, this is great wine.
This was the vintage that was available when you were over.
Yes, yes. All right, we have a little surprise for David, a little Washington love. I know he probably doesn't get a chance to taste Washington wines when he's in Portugal, so I thought we'd show him a little example of what we're doing here in Washington. In fact, this winemaker was in the store. He was in the store this weekend. Yeah, this is Tuesday, right? Yeah. He was in the store on Saturday, just out of the blue, I saw him. And so I'm excited to be able to have David try this one. This is a blend, just like all the wines from Portugal. In fact, we were talking, they only do a couple of individual varietals in Portugal. Everything else is blends. Alvarinho.
Alvarinho is a single varietal, and Verdelho. So generally we believe that if we put together 3 or 4 grape varieties, we'll get a better result. We'll get a better balanced wine if we play around with varieties. It makes sense, like cooking, the more ingredients you have in Bordeaux, and I mean, there are some exceptions in Burgundy. Pinot Noir works really well, but they're more the exceptions than the rule. Generally blending, but the Portuguese take it to an extreme. We have like so many varieties that sometimes we even have situations in the Douro Valley whereby we have the grape varieties already planted in mixed field blends, so they're already mixed in the vineyard. So in that case, we don't know what the hell we're doing, but somehow it all turns out well.
All right, give it a try, David. We want to see what he thinks of our Washington
Well, it's
blend. Now this has about 5 different varietals.
it's red.
It's red, yeah, you got that right. He's an expert. I'm not going to make you guess what the varietal is.
No, but it's there's a fair bit of spice and there's some greenness in there. So
Yeah.
maybe there's a bit of deep Verdot. Where can they from? Deep Verdot.
Pretty good, yeah. Deep Verdot. Look at him.
Yeah, I mean definitely deep Verdot. It's very structured. It's very intense with dry tannins. So there's some Cabernet, I guess, in there as well. Cat, deep Verdot. What you said 4 or 5.
I believe there's 4 or 5.
Cab Franc.
No Cab Franc. At least in memory, you might be right.
Melbourne.
But you know, if they put Cab in it, they're probably going to put its favorite sibling in there.
Merlot.
Yes.
Okay.
We got it. Pretty spicy.
Yeah, very spicy. Very juicy. Quite young still. So 3 weeks old.
Yeah, from a very tough vintage. Very good. It's actually 4 years old. This guy's good.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at the wine. This is Mark Ryan Winery Long Haul Red from Red Mountain, Washington. It is 76% Merlot, 13%. It does have Cab Franc. Good job. I thought that was Cabernet Sauvignon.
I took the bottle.
Good job. And 10% Cabernet Sauvignon and 1% Petit Verdot.
1%.
You guys can also take a little taste of this. Also, Mark Ryan actually showed. His name's not Mark Ryan. It's Mark O'Neilly. Mark.
That's what I can
It escaped me. I'll get it. It'll come to me. Anyway, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah,
That's great.
Appreciate
I'm glad you guys made it over here. Remember, thank you guys for taking the time to watch. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermented grape juice. Drink it, enjoy it, try new things. Never let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. If we do that together, we can take the snob out of wine.
Hey!